Welcome into the Michigan State Hockey Hub podcast. We are back after an extended leave for multiple reasons. I got the technology figured out. We got a lot to dive in today. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. And we brought back Nate Bott. You all know him. He's been on several times. Nate, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Clay. Thanks for having me on, and good to be back.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So coming into this season, and we had done a preseason show with Jeremy as well. And coming into the season, we had high hopes for Michigan State, and we thought that they were going to be good. Now, just how good was the question? And I don't know if you remember, Nate, you had them finishing fourth. I had them finishing first. So far, the season's not over, but it's looking good for me so far. We'll get into more of that later. But this state team is the best that I have seen them since I really started like seriously following and watching them, which is probably 2010-ish for me personally. Do you think that this is the best team since then? I mean, it seems like it.
Yeah, they're right up there. I mean, you look at where they're at in the Big Ten right now. One more win would match the most Big Ten wins that they've had since a decade ago when the conference first started. Um, they're scoring at an outrageous rate. A top five scoring team in the country, a top five power play in the country, and they're getting a ton of production from not just one or two lines. It's up and down the lineup. It could be anyone any given night. The defense is, contributing to rushes and putting up points as well. So, and then you look at the goaltending has been pretty outstanding from the freshman phenom Trey Augustine. So, you put it all together and combine that with the intensity of practices and the weight room gains that you've seen from a lot of the guys, and they're just they're a real package right now, and they're a real tough team to beat.
Yeah, and they have been all year long. Michigan State started the season off pretty hot. They did lose one to Air Force. Then they went to Boston College and dropped both of those games. Now, that's one of the best, if not the best team in the nation. Coming out of that series, I wasn't in a worry mode at all. It was just kind of a where are we right now marker. Now, anyone knows that early in the season, you can only take away so much. So, what did they do? They responded with only one loss in the month of November at Minnesota. They did have an overtime loss in there. And then in December, they just kept it rolling and moved on through January. And just to catch you up, they had a series after Boston College. It was 2 wins on the road against Ohio State, overtime loss and a win versus Penn State, a big sweep against Wisconsin at Munn, and then they went on the road to Minnesota, overtime, or excuse me, a shootout win. That was a shootout loss at Penn State as well, and a loss on the road to Minnesota before sweeping Notre Dame, winning against Ferris State in the GLI. Um, I guess it was considered an overtime tie um, against Michigan Tech, going on the road to Penn State, winning both of those games. And then we come to this past weekend. And I want to start there. Is this past weekend. Michigan home, Michigan away, split series. Absolutely blown out. Breaks blown off them 7-1 in the first game at Munn. They go on the road. And Nate, I had this feeling Friday night when they got down 3-4, whatever it was. Every other year I've ever watched this team, I'd say this game's over, turn it off. This year, I knew this team had enough talent to come back. They have enough offense for the first time in a decade that they can fight back from a 4-goal deficit. Now, we didn't see it Friday night, but the very next night on Saturday, we saw the Spartans do just that, come back and have a fantastic win at Yost Ice Arena. Well, I think we lost Nate there.
Yeah, it was a it was a tale of two days. I mean, you look at the first day, and Michigan really put it on them. I thought Michigan State was really good the first 5-6 minutes of that Friday game, and then Michigan just kind of let the floodgates open, and I think a lot of those Michigan State guys kind of reverted back to oh, this is maybe I need to hit somebody, maybe I need to do something to get our guys going a little bit, and it carried a little too far. And I think that's something that as Nightingale and his staff move forward, that they're gonna there's definitely a message of we want to respect the rivalry, and when they're doing stuff like that, it's not respecting it. And I think the next night they came out, and it all changed when I think Rucker McGroarty scores his first goal to make it 3-1. He hits Isaac Howard's patented slicked back hair celebration, and then he gets another one on the power play, and then right after that, immediate timeout. I don't know what got said on the bench there, but it lit a fire into a lot of those guys. And you look at you know Howard scores 15 or so seconds after that timeout, and then all of a sudden Michigan State is forechecking extremely well, forcing turnovers, making Michigan's blue line second guess themselves, and all of a sudden they're putting one after another in the back of the net. And I think that third period, right when Jeremy Davidson able to force another turnover and feed Nico for it to go up 6-4, I felt at that moment that was pretty much the game right there, getting that first one out of the third period. But like you said, ton of talent. When this team hasn't gotten down very often, but when they have, even looking back to that first game against Boston College, they went down 2-0 and were able to respond and tie it back up pretty quickly. So definitely a lot of firepower, and never can really count them out in a game where they have a large deficit.
Absolutely. And this team is just different. I mean, there is just no way that they would have fought back like they did on the road in previous years. Now, maybe last year because they showed it a little bit, but this is just a different looking team. And it feels like a theme that we've said multiple times on this podcast is just how different they are. Now, you mentioned, and we're going to get into the individual players right now, and you mentioned Joey Larson's name. First off, I want to just stand and I'm not able to share this on the screen with it being easy to read, so I'm going to read off just the first five or so. Joey Larson leads the team in points with 28. That's 15 goals, 13 assists. Artem Levshinov is second, 7 goals, 19 assists, 26 points. Red Savage, Nico Mueller are tied for 24 with 24 points. Savage, 8 goals, 16 assists. Mueller, 7 goals, 17 assists. Isaac Howard, who has played 2 less games than everybody else there, finishes right behind them with 21.6 goals, 15 assists. The only other player in double-digit goals besides Larson is Gavin O'Connell, who's just been fantastic. 11 goals, 8 assists. And he also has, let me see if I can pull it up here. No, I'm sorry. Larson has 7 power play goals as well. So I know that was kind of difficult to get through and in here, but let's just start with Joey Larson and what has been your main takeaway with him this year.
Yeah, kid's a gamer. I think that whole line with Larson and Savage and OC, that line's been outstanding for him. I think they're like 34 goals, 39 assists, or something like that. But yeah, Larson, and he's been utilized so well in the power play. Sitting in that slot, ready for one timers, and he's got 7. He could have had a few more. I think they really have an emphasis in feeding him and funneling pucks to him when they're on the man advantage. But yeah, he's been good. He's got a nose for loose pucks, and he fires them on net. You look at last year, he comes into the portal with 14 goals, and he's already exceeded that here. I think he had 103 shots in his first season at Northern Michigan. I think right now he's up to 98 already this season. So,
he's at 100
I think he's at 100 even.
Yeah.
To start this year. So, he's getting pucks and he's firing them on net, and he's got a really.
Absolutely. Yeah. He has been really exciting to watch. And one of those players who, when he was coming in, I did not know a ton about him, but, we had talked about him some. And just from what I saw, I thought, okay, if we can just get a little bit more offense. And what we always talked about this offseason was secondary scoring, getting more players who can actually find the back of the net consistently. And I think that's exactly what they've done. I mean, if you ask me, everybody, just about everyone has been a portal hit. If you think about it, Isaac Howard, he's been a great player when he's been on the ice with the Spartans. He did have to go for the World Juniors, but he's been awesome. Lebster's been great. Savage. Who am I missing here from the portal?
Crossman, but he hasn't played much, but still a veteran presence and a really good locker room guy, and the guys seem to
Yeah.
really like him as well.
Yeah, so the portal has just been an absolute hit so far. And I think it's honestly the reason why they are where they are right now. Now, we can talk about players like um, Gavin O'Connell and Jeremy Davidson still providing some great minutes, and Daniel Russell and Dort and whatnot. We can talk about these players that were coming in, but I think it's really the portal players that have taken this team to the next level. Now, I do want to talk to you about the blue line. It hasn't been the prettiest game in and game out. Sometimes they've been good. Now, I do think there's talent. They have the talent back there, but it hasn't always clicked. What have you seen that's kind of been a struggle for the defensemen in this group?
Yeah, I mean it's a really young group. There's a lot of talent there, but you're dressing 4 freshmen, every night there on the back. So, um, I think Nash has been pretty steady. I think Artie's been obviously, fantastic with just coming in late, but even he's had a few little freshman blunders, and that's going to happen. But guys like Patrick Geary, he came in, you know, wasn't expected to be like a every night guy, and he worked and he earned his spot there, and he's been pretty good for Michigan State, especially earlier in the season. He scored a few goals, jumping in the rush. But I think it's just been they don't have to rely so much on playmaking, but there are some guys back there who are maybe used to that. I think guys like Gucciardi used to jumping up, joining rushes. They're not asked to do that as much. You look at a kid like Max Sturbach, he can really do it all, and I think at moments he's been really impressive. And I think he's had some games where it's been a little bit of a struggle for him. Same goes with a kid like Austin Orovitz, but it's a little bit of growing pains, but you're not going to work through them if you're not going out there on the ice and playing. So it's a really really talented group, and I think luckily they have an offense that's producing the way it is, that maybe some of those mistakes get a little covered up. And obviously you have a fantastic goaltender as well who can help alleviate some of those rookie errors.
The one thing for me with the blue line is it's not like, and I'm not going to say anyone's name, but in previous seasons there were times where you just knew that player was not good enough, and every single night he was trying as hard as he could, but it just was never good enough. The mistakes here are not that consistent with the same players. One night they may have a great game, the next night it's really a consistency thing for me than it is these players are just not good. I think there's enough talent there to be good and to even win the Big Ten. Like, I think that they have that much talent. They're showing it there in first place. So for me, it's more of a consistency. Like you said, that comes with a lot of the youth. So I do think that there's enough talent there. Now, you mentioned Trey Augustine, the goalie, second round draft pick from the Detroit Red Wings in this past year's draft. Man, has he been good. What can you tell us about Trey Augustine and what you've seen?
Yeah, he's I think especially early on in the season or throughout the start of Big Ten play. I mean, just he's so calm and he's so composed. It's like nothing can get to him. Even on Friday, this past Friday against Michigan, like 7-1, but he had a few outstanding saves. The game Saturday, really, I think the game Saturday was maybe the first time I saw him react, to his team, and I think he kind of maybe went over to the bench and was like, "Hey guys, it's been 90 minutes here of let me hang out to dry here. Let's get going. Because I mean, he made a few incredible saves in Ann Arbor on Saturday that really kept Michigan State in it. That first period could have been a 4-1 Michigan lead, but um, just doesn't let anything get to him. He gets up for the big moments, and he's been rock solid. I think it's right now probably between him or Kyle McClellan for Big Ten goaltender of the year.
Yeah, I mean, those who are unfamiliar, his stats this year: 21 games played, 14, 4 and 2, goals against 64, goals against per game 3.12, two shutouts, 663 saves for a save percentage of 912. Now, Luca DePasco is also a freshman, and maybe people don't know as much about him. He's only played in 4 games. I mean, from what I've seen from him, and I've watched the games, he looks talented as well. Now, he's not second round draft pick talent, best goaltender in the Big Ten talent, but this is not bad. Like, whenever Trey Augustine does leave and go play for the Red Wings or Grand Rapids or wherever he goes, I don't think that Michigan State's like in panic mode. Like, they have a good young goalie on their hands as well.
Yeah, it's been limited appearances, but yeah, he's been. I mean, he's a really good goalie too. I mean, you look at what he did in Penticton last year in the BCHL. I mean, just ran through that league as easily the best goaltender there. And yeah, Michigan State's got the depth that they want at goaltender for at least the next 4 seasons. So, but yeah, he's been impressive when he's been needed to be called upon.
So, looking ahead to the rest of the year, there's not many series left, only a few. We go, or excuse me, it is in East Lansing this upcoming weekend for a matchup with Minnesota. Then you go on the road to Notre Dame, and then it's Michigan again, Ohio State, and you finish out the year on the road at Wisconsin. Before we kind of dive into that, I do want to say the game against Michigan, the duel in the D, the Munsters, Michigan State student section, is trying to get a large group of Michigan State fans to go to that game. They've reached out to me. They've been doing all kinds of efforts trying to get as much green there as possible. So everyone who's even thinking about it, please consider going to that game. As we look through the schedule, Nate, what do you think is most likely to happen? What do you think needs to happen for Michigan State to stay atop of the Big Ten?
Yeah, I mean, if they keep up the rate that they're playing at right now, I mean, you look at um, the opponents coming up. They get Ohio State for a series at home. They handled Ohio State on the road with ease. They have to go to Notre Dame, which is a tough place to play. But look at the last time they went there. They won their first Big Ten tournament series. When they had their backs against the wall. Um, Definitely two series that are sweepable. Um, Even this series this weekend. I mean, Minnesota's been playing really good hockey, but if you can take away what they did when they went to Minnesota. I mean, they battle in overtime, win in a shootout, get the extra point, and then they're trailing by 2 with less than 5 to go, and they find a way to get it into the extra time again to earn a point. So it should be really a fun last month and a half here. And could you imagine if it ends final week of Big Ten play, the two teams who are at the bottom of last year playing for a Big Ten title in Madison? That'd be something that's really really
It's
exciting to see.
crazy. It's crazy to think that's even in the realm of possibilities at the end of January here. As you mentioned, two of the worst teams last year in the Big Ten. That doesn't mean they were bad. Big Ten's been tough.
Mhm.
But just the turnaround, especially from Wisconsin, has been incredible to watch. And if you have not been to Wisconsin, to Madison, I highly suggest it. I went to a few games up there, 2019, 2018, something like that. And it was a really awesome time. So those of you who don't go to Duel at the D, drive up to Madison. It's an easy trip. I'm sure that LSJ is sending you up there, right?
I think it'll depend on the scenarios, but Yeah, hoping to be a Madison.
Okay, good. They need to. They need to. So as we look, and we'll finish up here, I'm looking here and I'm thinking, okay, few series left. Who are a few players that could step up? Who are a few players that could show a little bit of even growth? Especially with like Notre Dame and Ohio State coming up. Like, I think that those are opportunities that Michigan State should capitalize on. And a couple of players that I just want to see a little bit more, and we saw it, is Tommy Manisto, and we saw it in the World Juniors that he is a talented player, and he made some amazing plays in that tournament. At Michigan State, he's been more of the fourth line player, but I think there's a little bit more for him to unlock. I think that there's a little bit more offense that doesn't need to be his focus, but there's something else there.
Yeah, I mean, if you can ask up and down the roster, then most guys will probably tell you that Tommy's the fastest guy they have on the team. So he's definitely utilized that speed in spots this season. I think it's also, and for the staff, it's tough. You want to get, some of these guys like Griffin Jarecki and Owen Baker. Their moments where they've been really impressive too, and it's really hard to kind of find time for three or four forwards when only really one spot's available, and the Spartans haven't really been hurt by any injuries or anything that would see an opportunity for someone. So, but yeah, you're right. Obviously Tommy had a great World Juniors. Was one of Finland's best players, I thought, and um, yeah, that fourth line, I think right before the GLI, that fourth line was really clicking, and then um, obviously Tommy goes and Tanner Kelly moves up to the first line for those couple GLI games. But if they can get some of that back, and MSU, if they have four lines going, really well in the offensive zone, they're going to be a really really tough team to beat.
So Tanner Kelly, and I actually missed any news on this, but he was not dressed last game. Is that correct? Was that an injury or a healthy scratch?
No, that was a scratch. When you look at Friday's game, Tanner took two roughing minors, a face masking major, and then towards the end of the game, an outright cross checking major in game misconduct. I think it was maybe a little bit of a message from Nighty, and that's not going to be something that Michigan State wants to do when they're playing their rivals. So I think it was a little frustration boiled over, and you know, it's things like that can happen in a rivalry. But yeah, I think that was kind of the message there for him on Saturday.
Yeah. So preseason, you said that Michigan State would finish fourth. We're sitting here January 24th. I'm letting you come up with a new prediction now, Nate. You get to have a new life here, if you will. Where do you project Michigan State to finish in the Big Ten? And, well, let's just start there. Where do you project them to finish in the Big
Yeah, I think you look at the Michigan State and Wisconsin, how much they really separated themselves from the rest of the conference in that first half. I think it'll be tough for a Minnesota or Michigan or to really fight their way back to the very top. I think Michigan State, their schedule, they get Minnesota at home this weekend. I know they'll have to play Wisconsin, but Wisconsin has to go to they'll have to go to Ann Arbor this weekend. They still have a series with Minnesota as well. So I'll say Michigan State. They head to Madison that last week, maybe needing a win or maybe just a point or two to secure the Big Ten title.
Absolutely, absolutely. So once they get into the Big Ten tournament, they in this scenario would host. And where do you see that going? Do you think that they have a chance? Do you think that are you going to predict that they win the Big Ten tournament?
I mean, the Mun crowds have been incredible, and they've certainly helped a few results here for them. Um, I won't say that they win the Big Ten tournament. I could definitely see them if they end up as the number one seed and get a bye. Um, Potentially face a Michigan or Minnesota, whoever finishes fourth there. In the next round, we'll see. but it should be super exciting. I think if Michigan State's able to finish atop the Big Ten and win a Big Ten tournament game, depending on I guess who the wins and losses come against here in the schedule, you're looking at a potential real shot at a potential number 1 seed in one of the 4 NCAA regionals. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of hype, a lot of things that could really fall the Spartans' way if they keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. NCAA tournament's going to be huge. Spartans have not made that since 2012. Is that right?
2012, yeah.
That was Anasta's first year, right?
Yep, I was with Torrey Krug, kind of put them on their back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Into the
Gosh, it
tournament.
feels so long ago. So yeah, that is very much in play. More likely than not, obviously, anything can happen now between now and the end of the year. So let's not. I know I've been getting ahead of myself a lot, but let's not get too far ahead. But I think that they're going to be good to be in the NCAA tournament, which would just be absolutely incredible.
It would
Um,
take a pretty monumental collapse for them
yeah,
to. I mean, given that they play Minnesota, who I think is 7th or 8th in pairwise, they play Wisconsin, who's 3rd in pairwise. I think Michigan State would have to lose the majority of their games, including
yeah.
probably both to Ohio State to fall to a point where they would miss it outright. So I think they're pretty locked for a spot.
Totally different this year. This hockey team's better than they've ever been. We saw glimpses of it last year. We saw the precursor, if you will. We are seeing it now. We see Munn back being alive, people trying to get tickets. The crowds have been crazy. Graham Couch is starting to actually go to games and do his job. It's been absolutely incredible to see alcohol sales in Munn as well. Nate, do you get a free beer with your game meal from the press box?
I get a concession voucher. I haven't tried it. I don't think that would be allowed, though.
Well, let's not try that, okay? But hey, Nate, thanks so much for joining us this week. We'll have you back very soon, probably closer towards the end of the season, maybe a time before then, and we'll dive into the postseason as well.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thanks for having me. Good talk.
All righty, everybody. Till next time, go green.